So welcome to the July 13th meeting of the Concord Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. We have tonight a quorum that consists of Thomas Swain. Is he present?
Yes.
Elizabeth Akehurst Moore.
I'm here.
And I'm chairing it, Theo Kittermans. I'm here. Please mute your laptops, your iPads, and turn off video just to save bandwidth until your item comes up. And tonight we are starting off with a special permit request by Karen Prossing to operate a tourist home at 280 Sandy Pond Road. Anybody here to present for that?
So I do see Karen.
Yeah, Karen is here. Karen, do you want to present, or is there anybody that is going to present on behalf of you?
Hello, I'm Karen O'Toole for another matter, and I'm wondering if perhaps there is the other. You obviously you're looking for Ms. Pressing. So when you see Karen right now, I think
no,
it's
her name is on the screen.
Okay, good.
So thank you.
Yep.
Karen Prossing, calling Karen Prossing.
Maybe she doesn't know she's muted.
Okay.
There she is.
Muted. All right, so in the presentation, am I supposed to sort of follow the guidelines that I did for the application?
Yeah, just explain to us why you would like to get a special permit for this.
All right, so I reside at 280 Sandy Pond Road, and increasingly my taxes have gone up and up and up. My husband died a few years back, and quite honestly, I'd like to stay in Concord. And I think my home is situated and conducive to having a couple of guests stay at various times. And I think that it would help defray some of the costs that, you know, I incur through my taxes. And it would allow me then to stay in the community as a senior citizen.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? Any questions from board members about the matter?
I don't have any questions,
No.
but I do note that she would be using just the 2 rooms with a max of 3 guests.
Yeah.
No breakfast, no cars on the street. She can handle the whatever cars there are. It seems to be on the driveway. So I personally don't see any issue with this one at the moment.
Yes, that's correct, as stated.
Elizabeth, you're okay?
Yep, I agree.
I'll open it up for public comment here. Anybody from the public who would like to comment? Do we have any? Pamela Dritt. You're muted.
Hi, Pamela
Hi.
Dritt, Teen Concord Green. I was just wondering, is there a reason why she shouldn't give people breakfast? And is this not something that we're allowed to do?
I'm not. I think it's allowable, but I think she might have made that decision. Although I let her answer.
I'm actually not sure there might be a Board of Health thing once you start serving food.
Okay,
I don't know.
Okay.
Paul, you might know that answer.
Yes, I think you have to have an approved kitchen.
Yeah.
If you're doing,
okay,
a breakfast menu.
Yeah, Elizabeth, and there's no requirement to serve food for this tourist home, so.
okay. Good. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody else from the public? If none, then we'll close this section of the hearing. Ms. Akers-Morse, Ms. Swain, any comment? I mean, Ms. Swain, Tom, you just mentioned it before, ran through sort of the requirements, and you know, I think both Elizabeth and I seem to agree with that.
Yeah, just how long are we gonna grant this for?
I
Do we
think
only give it a year to start?
I think that's what we've done with them all, right? A year to start, and then after the year, if everything goes well, then we'll grant a longer period. So a year to start.
Great.
I'm ready for a motion.
Tom, you go ahead.
I-
You want
I move that the application of Karen Pressing for a special permit under the zoning bylaw, sections 5.3.15 and 11.6 to operate a tourist home at 280 Sandy Pond Road be approved, and that the permit incorporate the conditions that we find in favor in 11.6
Right, for the period of
For-
1 year, right?
for a period of 1 year. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Great. I second.
Thank you. All in favor, Mrs. Swain,
Aye.
Ms. Akers-Moore,
Aye.
and chair votes aye as well. Congratulations. Second item of the agenda. Okay, almost a continuation. The first item is a Mark and Christy Riddick for a special permit to operate a tourist home at 478 Lexington Road. Anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Yes, this is Mark Riddick. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go
Great.
ahead.
Hi. Yes, we're putting in an application to actually use this particular part of our property that was approved and built roughly 8 years ago. We'd just like to have the ability to make it available outside of our family and friends through a service such as Airbnb. It is a studio, for lack of a better term. It does not have a separate bedroom, but it does have a full bath and shower and sink. And so it's limited in its capacity. So the thought is that if we do make it available to rent, short-term rent, it would be for up to a maximum of two folks and would limit it there. We do have full parking. We actually have extra parking spaces directly in front of this detached garage. That's the way we designed it from the get-go. At this point, it's, you know, we see it as a great alternative use. And just to give you some proximity on our location, we are next to what was formerly known as the Hawthorne Inn, which was a 7-bedroom bed and breakfast that had been operated, I think, for the past 30 plus years as a bed and breakfast. Prior to that, it was a it had a different use, but that doesn't really matter. Anyway, it was a fully functional bed and breakfast up until approximately a year ago when it got sold, and the family that actually has taken residence has turned that back into a single family home. But right, I don't know if that I have any other comments about it, but we feel that we'd like to get permission to actually use this as really as a nightly rental, just for a small amount of folks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Members of the board, any questions?
I would welcome some comment from Paul or the other two members of the board if you look at 5.3.15, which is the section that's is before us, is the garage with the office included in the definition of a single family detached dwelling unit? Because if that's the one that bothers me. I don't have any problem with the concept here. I think it's probably a good idea and doesn't impact negatively a lot of things that we might be concerned about. But I'm concerned about how the language appears in 5.3.15 of the code, and I need some maybe guidance on that.
Well, the way I looked at it, Tom, is, you know, the Riddicks could use this room as a bedroom for themselves as part of a single family.
Mhm.
So I don't see any reason why it couldn't be, you know, used for the tourist home as well and rented out separately.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Good.
Okay. Thank you.
We just
Elizabeth, you-
scroll to, can we just scroll to the parking plan for 1 second? I just. Okay,
So as you enter, you're seeing a barn door in front of you. There are
Yep.
two full, actually 2.5 parking spaces directly there in front of that barn door, right there. Yeah, on the gray stone. As you turn left, and I don't know if we've provided a photo or not, but that becomes the entrance to our garage with 2 garage doors.
There's the entrance.
Right there, yeah, that's what we use, if you will.
got it. Okay, I just didn't have that printed out, so I just want to take a look.
Yeah.
That's great. That looks like plenty of parking to me. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, if none, I'll open it up to the public. Any questions from the public? Anybody? Anybody? Seeing none, we'll close that section of the hearing. As with the application just before us, I think this is again pretty straightforward. I think
Yeah, Theo, can I just say one thing?
yeah.
I don't know if everyone saw, we just got an email at 5:08 today from Frank Feely, who I don't know if is here, but had raised some concerns about this, but it wasn't specifically about this. It was about just, did you all, everyone get that?
I did get it. I saw it.
Okay,
I did not
So-
see it.
just more about the short-term rental not helping out with housing stock, you know, in town for smaller affordable housing. I just wanted to mention it and put it on record. I think that it's a point, but I don't think it bears on whether or not we approve this.
Correct. It is it is, yeah. The application is totally valid, I think, and
Yep.
Indeed, this I don't think
Okay.
especially
No, I just
the
wanted-
let's not go into that discussion, but no, I hear where you're coming from. I hear where this the letter is coming from, although I haven't read it yet. But
But yeah, okay,
I get it. So
great.
now it's
Yeah, I know I was gonna make a motion unless.
yeah, that's
anyone
what I was
wants to
going to be
discussion.
suggesting that you.
Okay, I move that we grant the special permit to Mark and Christy Riddick under zoning bylaw section 5.3.15 and 11.6 to operate a tourist home at 478 Lexington Road for a period of 1 year, incorporating all the conditions under 11.6, and I don't think subject to anything else. So
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Ms. Akers Moore, Mr. Thomas Swain,
Yes.
and Theo Kinnaman's chair votes yes as well. Congratulations, and we'll see you maybe in a year again if you decide to go on with it.
And so it's just a reapplication for what I've just done.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
and this is sort of what the board typically does is
Yeah.
like just
Probation period or
sort of
something.
probation
That's-
period, yeah, and then
Right.
we'll extend it for a longer time, but we'll see
Great.
how it goes for a year, and then with the same application, and then you'll be here again.
Super. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, Mary Beth Baker and Erwin Hipsman for the renewal of a special permit to operate a tourist home at 49 Seymour Street. Anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant? Doesn't look that way. There's nobody here. There's nobody shown on the screen with these last names. So okay, let's what
Is there anyone
That's-
appearing in opposition? Or is there just no activity on this one?
there is no activity on this one, so what if it since it's a re-app, do we need the applicant to be here? If we can hear from Paul whether there's been any issues over the
No, Theo, I think it's been in operation for at least a year, and we've had no complaints or any negative comments from any of the neighbors or anybody in that neighborhood.
okay.
So I would say Theo, open it to public comments, see
Yeah.
if there is any. If not, maybe we just keep it at a year since no one's here to argue for longer.
Sure. Let's open it then for public comment. Tom, anybody? Nobody here. So let's close the public comment section of this hearing. And then indeed, since nobody's here per Elizabeth's suggestion, I would like indeed to continue this or to grant the extension of the permit, but just for a year, as it's usually the case, and we do want people to ask for an extension for multiple years to be present. So can I get a motion to that effect, please?
I will move this time that the application of Mary Beth Baker and Erwin Hipsman for the renewal of a special permit under zoning bylaws sections 5.3.15 and 11.6 to operate a tourist home at 49 Seymour Street be granted with a 1-year period.
Second,
All those in favor, Mr. Swain,
Yes,
Ms. Akers Moore,
aye.
chair votes yes as well. So let's see then. Next meeting, there's 7. Yep. Well, it's slightly behind schedule, but pretty close. 7:15 meeting Joseph Flynn for the renewal of a special permit on his for the garaging and parking of commercial motor vehicles at 358 Strawberry Hill Road. Anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant? Well,
Okay.
Okay, I do see Joseph Flynn, however, he appears to be frozen. And it was my understanding Mr. Flynn was going to speak.
I see Henry too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mr.
Um,
Flynn, would you like to speak to your application? If you can hear me?
no.
uh-oh.
Somehow you're, we can't hear you. We see you talk, but we can't hear you. That's muted.
Would it be appropriate to move him to the next hearing, not to the next matter on our agenda tonight, to give him a chance to clear up his side and then come back to him tonight?
I like that suggestion. And let's do that. So do I get a motion to continue this hearing?
We're not really continuing it though, are we?
No.
So I would just say,
Let's-
just move on to the next one and then we'll go back. I don't think you have to do anything.
Okay, okay.
Haley, am I right about that?
Yes.
But if they
Um,
want to probably shut down their computer, restart it or call in.
Yeah, and then we'll see where we stand after the next item, 720, which we have is a special permit request by Ross Walter for a detached additional dwelling unit at 537 Barrett's Mill Road. Anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant?
I am. Good evening. My name is Tim
Hi.
O'Reilly. Should I dive right into it?
Yep, sure. Go ahead.
Perfect. My name's Tim O'Reilly. I work for Backyard ADUs. I help homeowners across New England design, permit, and build ADUs to meet their needs. So tonight, I'm really excited to present to you the project on behalf of the homeowners, 537 Barrett's Mill Road. We're proposing an 842 square foot detached ADU. It'll be in the rear yard of the property. And the detached ADU is for a mother who wishes to age in place and be close to her daughter, son-in-law, and grandchildren. The existing house has 5 occupants and 4 bedrooms. 3 generations are living under one roof, where childcare duties are shared. All of the bedrooms are on the 2nd floor, and the need for a quiet office space is paramount, as we all know, being here tonight on Zoom. So the family went exploring for long-term solutions to ensure they can all remain together on this property. So we're submitting under section 4.222 of the zoning bylaw, and we're requesting a special permit for this ADU to be larger than the 750 square feet allowed by right. I'm here to really explore with you guys why that extra 92 square feet is important. It translates to 3.6 linear feet of the building's length. And that space makes all the difference in terms of that long-term viability for the occupant and their family. If we could look at the floor plan, when we take on these projects and work with homeowners, aging in place is a great framework, and we take great care to ensure the structure meets the current, but also their future needs. The cornerstone here is single-story living, which is currently not had in their existing house. And so this provides adaptability for changing as their mobility and health needs change in the future. So in this design you see in front of us, there are a few features that will ensure that this homeowner can live in the structure for a long time, provide flexibility as she ages, and it'll allow her family to care for her in the long term. So that 92 square feet, I just want to highlight a couple spaces here. The first in the bathroom. So we have a side-by-side washer and dryer. It also has corresponding storage. So it's a good pivot point if she's ever in a wheelchair, that she can maintain her independence. This is about 14 square feet that you see there to do the side-by-side washer and dryer. The bedroom as well, we took care to make sure that there's access to the bed on all 3 sides, including if there was a caretaker, to make sure there's adequate space and flexibility for furniture. So this added about 36 square feet. The kitchen As you'll see, we have wide corridors around that island. And even though it's not much, that extra little space allows for functionality as the occupant ages, and it adds about 18 square feet of floor area. The mudroom is another area where she'll have the flexibility to sit down or steady herself as she comes in or out of the house. And having that amount of flexibility to feel safe coming in and out of your house adds about 48 square feet. So the open concept dining room and living room basically allows for flexibility for table sizes, for furniture placement, and as her mobility and needs change, the family can work to modify that space to fit her needs. The homeowner is also an avid piano player, and so we designed a little nook there you see in the living room where she can have her instrument and continue to play piano, which brings her a lot of joy. So all these small design considerations contribute to this floor plan being 92 square feet larger than the by right size. And so these key areas make all the difference for someone to be able to live out their years in peace and comfort and have their independence. Going with a 750 square foot ADU or reducing this house by 3.6 linear feet would be taking away space in those key areas we see that will affect long-term accessibility and comfort. The final thing I want to touch on here, and that the board is charged with tonight, is looking at how these 92 square feet can be constructed, detached in the backyard without, from the bylaw, creating substantial detriment to the neighborhood or derogating from the intent and purpose of this bylaw. As you saw from all those letters, you'll likely hear several arguments tonight about what substantial detriment may mean. The growth of ADUs across the country, including here in Concord, is to give homeowners and families options. And in this case, this ADU allows for multi-generational living. It'll ensure this grandmother can take her grandchildren, meet them when they get off the school bus, cook and share meals together, and when the time comes, be taken care of by her next of kin. This is not a detriment to this neighborhood or any neighborhood. It's a gift. Another argument you're going to hear tonight, most likely, is the visual impacts of the ADU and how that might convey substantial detriment to the neighborhood. Could we look at the photos that we submitted as part of the application? Just wanted to show from all the angles that we were required to submit photos, where this ADU will be and sort of the visual impacts. So that first photo is standing in the right of way, looking at 537 Barrett's Mill Road. If we zoom in there to the photo with the car, that would be, again, a view from the public right away. And you can see a little white shed in the background. And as you look at the site plan, our ADU is tucked further in the backyard away from that shed, and we won't be visible from that public frontage. If we look at the other photos here, the side and also in the rear, you kind of get a sense of the neighborhood and these open backyards that are characteristic there. So folks can see into each other's space, even though there are vegetative buffers. And so let's see if you keep scrolling down, we'll have those photos from the back. Yep, so you can see this is that backyard space, and there's vegetative buffer on sort of all three sides of that backyard. Although you can see through it, you can see into the neighbor space, and you can even, look very far and eventually see the public right away. But however, standing on that public frontage, you won't be able to see this ADU. And like you see in that photo with the shed, we'll be sort of tucked over away from the property line there. We also considered this vegetative barrier and not wanting to disturb any of that. So the placement of our ADU maintains all visual buffers between 537 Barrett's Mill and their direct abutters. From a design lens, if you look at the elevations and the floor plans, we've designed this in a classic New England fashion with, we have it here. Yep, a classic New England roof line, trim aesthetics, clapboard siding, window grills. It blends in with the character of this neighborhood and other outbuildings you'll see in Concord. Another note, there's going to be no increase of traffic, and there's sufficient parking on site. So there'll be no impacts there in terms of the neighborhood. So as we work through this design phase, all of these items have been carefully considered as to why these 92 square feet of living area will not have a detrimental effect on the neighborhood. Our application lays out how we meet all the requirements of this section of the bylaw, and it's why we're requesting a special permit for subsection B. Before I gather your thoughts and feedback, which I'm looking forward to, I'd invite the homeowner to say a few words.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. After choosing Concord as the community where she wanted to raise her family, my daughter, her family, and I decided to look for a property we could share as a long-term residence. Concord provided a space where my grandchildren could be raised and I could grow old with my family. I was particularly interested in returning to a town close to Lincoln, where I grew up, and my sister still lives, and childhood friends are still close at hand. It is our understanding our purpose for building an ADU falls within the intent of the Concord ADU bylaws. After considering various options for creating a private living space for me, an ADU seemed the most pragmatic option for an accessible space where I can age in place with independence and some dignity. Out of respect for our contiguous neighbors, we informed them of our intention to build an ADU during the winter and invited them to see the preliminary plans when they became available in April. We appreciated the questions and concerns they raised, and as a result of the April meeting, we reduced the size of the proposed ADU. We thank the board for reviewing this application.
Yep, and we're looking forward to your questions, comments.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the board? From the board?
Based on the April meeting that you just described, how much did you take away from what you had originally designed?
That's a great question. So we were originally more on the upper end of that 1,000 square foot max. Our goal with that original design was, again, to have that long-term space. So we've pared down this design significantly, and we're at that 842 square feet.
So to be a little more specific, were you close to the 1,000 in your original design or no?
Yep. Yeah, we essentially had, like I said, the homeowner plays piano. We had a separate room where that instrument could be and have a space that could be closed off.
We also changed the footprint to change the entryway to reduce the overall length even further, to try and kind of make the visual impact in that way less as well.
And made the massing more in line with other outbuildings that you'll see in Concord.
And you may have indicated in your application or your presentation, you need one parking space. Where would the parking occur with respect to this application?
Absolutely. We have that on the site plan as well as in the photos. So there's a 2-car garage on site with 2 parking spaces in front of it, along with another parking space all in the driveway.
Okay.
Thank you.
Haley, is this the application that got, I just saw an email came through right before our meeting started tonight?
Yes, we received an additional document from an abutter.
Tom, do you have anything else?
Yeah. Well, I looked at that. I looked at briefly because it came right before our meeting opened that I saw it. And I would only raise to the other 2 members of the board, were there enough issues raised in that letter, which personally I haven't had time to think about, that would give any of us cause to say, hey, let's consider, at least after we hear the other comments tonight, whether we might want to postpone this 1 month to the next hearing, simply to give us time to think about that letter. But we don't have to answer that right this moment. But I did not have time to digest that letter.
No, and it's not actually a letter, I think, right?
Yes, it's more of a presentation that somebody.
Right.
We may hear. To that
Sure.
point, I think it's really important for us to outline what is by right here and what is not by right.
Yeah.
So by right, they could walk in with 750, I mean, they wouldn't have to walk in, 750 square feet. Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, they meet every other section of the bylaw here.
Correct, Elizabeth, yep.
So
Yes, right.
all the discussion about whether it's fair to allow it, which by the way, I think this absolutely fits the intent of the bylaw. It basically is the intent of the bylaw to have this happen, but all the other conversations about it being not with the intent of the bylaw and those ones that I looked at briefly in that email, that letter to Tom, are somewhat irrelevant. I mean, we're talking about whether the, what is it, 92 square feet is all we're looking at. It's the 92 square feet. If we say no, they can take off 92 square feet and build it anyway. So it's not getting to the question of whether or not an ADU should be allowed at all. It's
Good point. Yep.
So,
Yep.
anyway, I just thought we should outline that before
Yep.
public comment.
Yeah, no, I agree. The special permit is for 92 square feet. It's not for the ADU. It's for the use. It's just for 92 square foot. That said, opening up for public comment. Please raise your hand. Paul Groomer, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. One of the abutters to the property. I'm Paul Gromer. I live at 521 Barrett's Mill Road with my wife Karen. We're next door to the property. I did submit a lengthy letter, and then my wife and I also submitted the presentation for tonight. If, with your permission, I'd like to share my screen and walk through it. I think that would be the most efficient way to cover the material.
Sure.
May I have permission to do that? Thank you. So can I just ask, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can. But it's not moving.
There we go. Is it moving now?
Yeah,
Yes.
it is.
My wife and I live at 521 Barrett's Mill Road. We've lived there for 34 years. In that time, we've never opposed an applicant's neighbor's request for a permit. In fact, we've submitted letters of support on multiple occasions. We do oppose this one, and in fact, the three abutters unanimously oppose this application, as do other neighbors nearby, and you've received letters from all of them. I'll point out that the application is unprecedented. I've read all of the meetings of this board where you've considered ADUs since the ADU bylaw was passed in 2020. You've approved 8 ADUs. 7 of those were within existing structures with no change to the exterior of the building whatsoever. And the 8th was part of the construction of a detached garage with an ADU on top. This board has never approved a standalone ADU. I'd also like to point out, and I'll get into this in more detail, there's really a misstatement in both the application and in the presentation tonight, where it was stated that this ADU would not be visible from the street. It's actually quite visible from the street, not only Barrett's Mill, but Lee Drive, the conservation land behind the houses, and the Barrett's Mill Finnegan's Way walking trail that goes behind the houses. There are 3 reasons the application should be denied. Number 1, it doesn't meet the requirements of the bylaw. Number 2, it would cause substantial detriment to the neighborhood. And number 3, it would derogate from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. And if I can address the first one first, not meeting the requirements of the bylaw, and this one actually applies to a building permit, not just the special permit. I have to respectfully disagree with the comments of the board. The bylaw itself, the ADU bylaw, expresses a limitation of the purposes for which an ADU can be built. So not only is that relevant to the decision tonight, it's essential to whether you could, building permit could issue or a special permit could issue. As you know, the fundamental zoning rule in Concord, if there's only one dwelling unit per lot. Without that rule, most of the other zoning rules become meaningless. For example, the minimum lot size requirement. And we live in Residence A, 40,000 square feet. That only has meaning if each owner can only build one house. If owners can build multiple houses on a single lot, that rule becomes meaningless. The ADU bylaw does create an exception to that fundamental rule, but only for two limited purposes specifically stated in the bylaw. Number one, to create additional dwelling units to rent. And number two, to help owners of a dwelling larger than needed to share space and the burdens of home ownership. These applicants do not meet those purposes. They're not planning to rent. And their complaint isn't that their house is too large, it's that it's too small. They're not downsizing seniors. They bought this house just 1 year ago for the existing occupants. And they're not looking to make it share space with anybody else. They're looking to make it bigger. If I may, they're in sharp contrast with the people for whom this bylaw is intended. An excellent example of that is the woman who presented the first application, Mrs. Prushik. She was only looking for a B&B, not for an ADU, but that's the case that the ADU bylaw covers. A senior citizen who's lived in her house in Concord for 45 years. As her family has changed and her needs have changed, that house is now too big, and she'd like to share the space in order to help cover her home ownership costs. That's not this family. They talk about aging in place. They're not trying to age in place. They just moved here. They're trying to create a new place. That's not what aging in place means. The application should also be denied because it causes substantial detriment to the neighborhood, which is a consideration that's limited to the special permit. I'm sure you know the Barrett's Mill neighborhood. It's one of historic sites. It's one of farmland, one of open space. You can see the open space here in this aerial view. One of the key features of the neighborhood is the space between the buildings. This is a feature that was highlighted in Envision Concord, Concord's long-term plan, where it talked about the importance of that space. In our neighborhood, the minimum lot size is 40,000 square feet. Many of the lots are significantly larger than that. And even those that are only 40,000 appear larger because of the open space. And here are some examples. This application, and I showed the application from above, seeks to squeeze a second house into the tightest corner of the neighborhood. You can see where these houses come together on their lots. The proposal is to put a second house where the X is. This house, contrary to what was stated, would be highly visible from the street. So this is a view of Barrett's Mill Road. On the left is as the street looks today. The applicant's house is the one on the left. That white building is the shed that was mentioned, an existing 96 square foot shed, entirely visible from Barrett's Mill Road, from which this photo was taken. The proposal is to replace that with an 842 square foot house, which is over 20 feet tall. And the illustration on the right shows what that would look like. For the house itself, we just pasted in the elevation filed with the application. As a result, it understates the impact because it's just a drawing, not an actual house. But this is what's being proposed. Is it visible from the street? Yes. Did the application say it wasn't? Yes. The application, and repeated it tonight, has misstated the impact of what they're proposing. This house would also be visible from the Barrett's Mill Historic District. The house abuts the Barrett's Mill Historic District. You can see it in the X there. It would also be visible from Barrett's Mill Farm, the Barrett's Mill Conservation Land, and the Barrett's Mill Finnegan's Way Trail, very heavily used hiking trail, which passes about 150 feet from the proposed house. Again, visible from all these areas. Also highly visible from the neighbors. The left shows the view from the backyard at 521 Barrett's Mill on one side. The right shows the view from 551 Barrett's Mill on the other side. The notion that this is screened by those scrawny trees is almost laughable. And keep in mind, this is a 20-foot house. The notion of screening it is preposterous. It should also be denied because it does derogate from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. The intent and purpose of the bylaw wasn't let's create an extra house for anyone who wants to live there. It was for two specific purposes, as stated in the bylaw itself, as I discussed earlier, and also as stated in the explanatory statement that accompanied the bylaw and was in the town meeting warrant that the residents of Concord voted on. It's for workforce housing, rental units, or downsizing seniors. This isn't about downsizing. This is about upsizing. It's not about aging in place. It's about moving to a new place. The bottom line here is the applicants bought a house a year ago, knowing how big it was, thinking it was too small, and are trying to make it bigger. There are lots of ways they could make their house bigger. They could use the unused space above the garage. They could put on a conventional addition. There are all sorts of ways they could do it. They would have less of an impact on the neighborhood, and things that would be allowed, not things like this, which is not permitted under the bylaw. It's not permitted by special permit, and it's not permitted under building permit either. By right means, you can do what the bylaw allows. Doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. So for all the reasons discussed, we respectfully ask the board to deny the application to build a second house in the backyard at 537 Barrett's Mill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person up is O'Brien. And I would assume that I think it's Mr. O'Brien, that you are a neighbor and that we pretty much heard the arguments. Do you want to confirm the arguments that were just gone through, presented to us, or is there anything new that you would like to add?
Yes, my name's Pat O'Brien. I'm an abutter at 551. I just want to highlight and support Paul's presentation, which I thought was very, very concise, very detailed, and just let the board know that he had that the support of the abutters of the neighborhood up and down Lee Drive are all in agreement that we are not in favor of this ADU.
Yeah, and I do want to just thank you for those comments. I just want to reiterate, as we said before, the special permit is not for the ADU that we're discussing here. The special permit is for it's at 93 square foot. The ADU is a by right use, and he could get a building permit tomorrow on that.
Can we address that, Theo, for 1 second?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
So the previous speaker made the argument that it's not by right in the bylaw because of those 2 points that for the purpose of providing small, this is under 4222, for the purpose of providing small additional dwelling units to rent to the town that will not substantially alter the appearance, for the purpose of enabling owners of single-family dwellings larger than required for their present needs to share space in the burdens of home ownership, and for the purpose of renting out space. So I have 2 comments to what the previous speaker, I'm sorry, is Mr. McCrory, who had said.
No, Paul Gromer.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at Hugh McCrory. Mr. Gromer had said, I think in this case, let's take practically speaking, Ms. Walt, there's nothing that says that you had to have moved in 30 years ago and have decided to downsize. So while it may be frustrating, I still think that this does meet the criteria of a by right ADU. Ms. Walter lives there. She is living in a house that is too big for her, and maybe she created that herself, but moving into a smaller unit would be, and I think you even mentioned that, Mr. Gromer, that at town meeting was talking about aging individuals. And I think also practically speaking, so someone comes before Paul for building permit and says, okay, well, we're going to charge rent. I mean, $1 a year. I mean, there's no, practically speaking, I think this is absolutely by right. So Theo, I'm just addressing those comments because I think it is by right. And I think we are still talking about the 92 square feet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
Unfortunately, I don't agree. I disagree with you at the moment.
Why, Tom?
Well, because I'm persuaded the interpretation that Mr. Gromer provided of 1 or 2 struck me as being applicable to this situation. I don't see.
Why
that they
isn't she
would be-
sharing
Go
the
ahead.
burdens of home ownership in a space that's too big for her? Why isn't that what she's doing exactly?
Well, I don't hear him saying that it's too big for her. I've missed that point. I'm hearing that they want more space for her so she can continue to stay in the side,
It says
in
for the purpose
homestead.
of enabling owners of single-family dwellings larger than required for their present needs. So if you argue that that thing is larger than its present needs to share the burdens of ownership. In my argument, that is what she's doing, is that the whole house is too big and she's creating a separate space so she can share the burdens of ownership of the whole property. I understand your point, but I think you'd be very hard pressed to go up to Paul and say that this is not by right. And if you really want to make the point, then charge rent. I mean, I think it's a non-issue. I think it might be frustrating to people that people are building extra things in their backyards, but that is what the town has been pushing for. So I think you're trying in a technicality to put it in a situation where you could sue Paul for granting a by right permit if this were 750 square feet, and I just don't buy it. I mean,
Can
I just
respond to that respectfully. The owners of the house, there are 3 owners of this house, Ms. Walter, her daughter, and her son-in-law. For the owners of the house, the problem isn't that it's too big. The problem is that it's too small. As a board, you must follow the words of the bylaw. You can't say, we think
practically speaking, let them charge rent. I mean, I think
they can't charge rent because she's a co-owner.
I think this is a question for I think to threaten the building commissioner with saying that this isn't a valid permit, I'm not buying that. Paul, you can bring you into this. Would you feel comfortable granting this by right if it was 750 square feet?
Yes, I would, yeah. I think this thing is an example of why this bylaw was created to begin with, in my opinion.
Yeah, no. And there might, indeed, I agree with Paul that there might be some technicalities that you potentially can hook this on, but it's definitely the spirit of the law and what the town approved.
And then where do you get yourself? You get yourself into straw ownership or passing it back and forth and renting it. I understand the frustration with not wanting more density, but this bylaw to create more of these smaller units. And I understand where you're going with they have enough space, they could just put it on. My point is what we need to look at is whether the 92 square feet are worthy of a special permit or not. So that's where I am. If Tom disagrees with me, then, we're off to the races, but I have to take Paul's word too, that he's the one who grants the building permit at the end of the day. So if we deny this and they come back with 750 square feet, he'll approve it.
Yeah, right. Hugh McCrory.
Hello. Thank you very much for, can you hear me and see me?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for taking the time. I did write a letter summarizing some issues, and I wanted to first acknowledge Mr. Gromer's excellent presentation, and he's laying it out very clearly. I'm also a little bit disappointed with one of the members almost making a decision before having heard from the rest of the public, but I'll let that go for now.
It's a legal question. What I'm saying is what
mind do you mind if I finish, please?
Yeah, if you can, because we just in the, because we're going to be running out of time here. So if you have anything to add to Mr. Gromer's
I definitely
presentation, and please do so.
I've definitely waited very patiently here, and I also had some concerns with Mr. O'Reilly's presentation, being the accuracy of it. I think if this special permit is accepted, and if the ADU is built, I think it would be very difficult for people to stand up at town meeting and say, it's fine for Concord to allow people to purchase houses and build ADUs in the backyard, irrespective of how the neighborhood feel, especially in areas of historic consequence. If this permit, and I haven't met Miss Ross and her family, and so it's not nothing against that particular family, But my concern is the precedent that's being set here, or that potentially could be set. I know your decision is on the special permit. I would also encourage the board to possibly get legal opinion on this one, because this is an opening of the floodgates in the town of Concord. And I would just request for further consideration to be given to this, and especially if you haven't read, all the members haven't had a chance to read all of the documentation. So that would be one of my requests. I personally think it is detriment to the neighborhood. I think the presentation by Mr. O'Reilly wasn't fully open and accurate, but that's his right, and I respect that. I don't think this is in the spirit of the bylaw. This Concord would become an ADU shopping town, and by right. So if that's what we want in our historic districts, that's fine. But we should, the zoning board of approval should, appeals rather, should be very careful, and I'm sure you will, in terms of the consideration that this particular special permit should be given. And
I do want to speak.
yes, my wife has one more further point, additional point.
Yeah. May I speak, or would you like to open
No,
up the
go ahead.
meeting?
Go ahead.
I'm looking at the bylaw as well, and I know that it has been quoted several times in the course of this meeting. Can you please show me where under section 4.222 it states that the board can grant a special permit? It does state it in the previous section, but it does not state it in 4.222. If you can show me language where it does, that would be helpful. I'm talking about a special.
It's in the final paragraph.
The final paragraph? Can you give me the letter, please?
The board may grant a special permit for relief for an additional dwelling unit located on the lot with less than the required minimum lot size for the applicable zoning district, and or an additional dwelling unit up to 1,000 gross square feet, and or a reduction in the required setbacks for a detached additional dwelling unit, provided that the desired relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the neighborhood and without derogating from the intent and purpose of this bylaw.
Okay.
Thanks
It's at
for
the
bringing
top
that up,
of
Mr. O'Reilly.
page 10.
Okay. And one final question, thank you. Can you show me the language in the same section, 4.222, where it is stated that a new structure may be built from the ground up as opposed to a pre-existing structure? And I would like to, pardon me, could the board please respond to my question? I'd appreciate that.
We'll look that up for you.
Well, it talks about a detached accessory structure.
Yeah, right.
That could be from ground up.
Okay, but that also could apply to a garage that's pre-existing.
True.
Above which, right, an ADU could be built. And I am sympathetic and entirely understand the need for an aging individual or any individual who might be physically challenged in some way to live on one floor. And there's no question that this issue is predicated on the need for a first floor kind of existence. But I do call into question that interpretation of allowing an entirely new unit to be built that would seem to be upsizing and not downsizing. And I think that that is an issue that the board really should keep in mind. I do think that the precedent that you are setting, if were you to grant this special permit, is an exceptionally important one, an impactful one that bears thinking through very carefully.
Thank you.
There will be many properties in Concord dotted with new individual buildings, and I wonder if you really intend that. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. We are judging this application on its merit, and what happens elsewhere in Concord is not something that we are necessarily contemplating whether we want that to happen. A couple of items here.
Just final point, and I want to put a request in, which I mentioned.
No, we could
that's
not
fine.
make.
It's just a
interrupt
legal
you,
opinion.
So
Thank you.
we could not interrupt you.
Actually, I was interrupted.
So,
I was interrupted, by the way. Sorry, I'm going to mute at this point. Thank you. It was the legal opinion. It was the legal opinion I just requested. That's all. Thank you.
A couple of items here. What just was said that this is in a historic district. I'd like to note that this is not in a historic district. So that would be one. And I think the intent of the bylaw is, and as you mentioned before, is that there are additions built to existing homes, not necessarily freestanding structures, but additions built to existing homes, which in my estimation could also be interpreted as upsizing. So we have one more member of the public who wants to speak, Mr. Lee.
I'll actually defer. I think any comments that I had have been sorted by the board and answered by Tim. So I'll pass.
Okay, so at this point in time, then seeing no further hands raised, I'll close the public comment section of this hearing. Board, what would you like to do? I can see that may potentially site visit would be in order. We had a request for a legal opinion, which has some validity. So although I don't want to go, both our attorneys, I don't want to.
I don't at all mind a site visit, but I think I'm being misconstrued. I have not made a decision on the application, but I don't think all of this other information is bearing on this. I think we're dealing with the 92 square feet. Right. And I really do think that if we say, fine, you can't have that 92 square feet, if the applicant wants to put the 750 square unit ADU there, then they would be able to do that. And Paul would be right to grant that permit at his discretion. Which is, I think, bears on this, because I don't think a lot of these issues have anything to do with what we are talking about for the special permit. What we're talking about is whether these 92 square feet under 11.6, derogate from the bylaw, affect the neighborhood. And for that, sure, we can take a site visit, but I am not in favor of a legal opinion on it.
Okay, Mr. Swain.
Hate to disagree with my good friend on the board, but I would love to. I would feel more comfortable if we had a legal opinion.
What's the legal opinion, though?
For two reasons. One is that this issue may come up from time to time, and I'd like to make sure that we're on solid ground, period. Secondly, I'm not yet convinced that your position is correct, meaning that Mr. Gromer's position isn't correct. As I read the code, I can appreciate the argument that he made, and given the facts presented by the applicant, I think there's a basis to support that argument. And I don't think that Paul should necessarily be giving a permit, even if it were 750, given the reasons.
Sorry, I'm not disagreeing. Yeah. Let's talk it through. To your first point, this issue being whether or not the 750 whether an ADU can be built at all. You're basically calling into question whether an ADU can be built by right if it's not if it doesn't meet one or two of those. So conditions. How do you add to your point, Theo? You have to. People are asking for these things to be constructed, which in their own fact of that is making the structure larger. Right. So I don't understand how you would grant, if it's okay for us to say that you can build a floor onto a garage that's making it bigger, how is that meeting the bylaw in that interpretation?
Because if we did that, it's because we would have made a finding that the other couple of conditions have been met in order to enlarge the garage or whatever structure you have. You'd have to find that but
you're still saying that it's too large for you and you're building on to it.
No, I'm not saying it's too large.
No, under
the-
under the bylaw.
The
Okay,
size of the house, the size of what they want to build doesn't bother me. In and of itself, you
Okay.
just look at, that doesn't bother me. The fact, and I agree with Theo, the historic aspect, that doesn't bother me. Meaning I wouldn't deny this application because it might have some impact on trails or the historic aspect of that area. What I am concerned about and would like to have a better understanding is is it a dwelling that's required because of the burdens of home ownership where it's considered too small or too big? And I think that's where I'm hung up a little bit.
but anytime you're gonna build an additional unit, you're gonna make it big. You're gonna make it bigger than what it is. So by
Right.
that argument, no one could put an additional dwelling unit on because you're always making it bigger. Just.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
I agree with you, but on that point, but I think it behooves us to do a site visit. I think that's
I
going to
don't
be
disagree with
important.
that.
And I think I think a legal opinion would be.
So the legal question isn't for us, it's for Paul and the ADU. Because the legal question doesn't bear on the special permit. It bears on whether you can grant the ADU at all. I would still argue that our special permit is only granting over the 750 square feet.
Correct.
Your
Yeah.
argument is whether or not this ADU could be built at all. So this
Yeah.
is a question for
Yeah.
the building commissioner to bring up with legal counsel.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. It's a question for it's a question for Paul that he would need to answer. Our special permit is just for adding 92, 93, whatever it is, square foot.
Which, Tom, to your point, I mean, could those be pursued in parallel? I mean, again, I don't disagree with the site visit. I never think that's a bad
Oh,
idea.
I'm okay with site visit.
But in terms of Paul pursuing with town council, whether this meets the, I mean, I guess I think it's
If I
calling
would,
the entire bylaw under question, but that's fine with me if he wants to do that.
if the board is comfortable, I would appreciate that Paul looks at the presentation that Mr. I think Gomer made. And in the context of that presentation, take up with the town council whether he could grant a permit for that ADU at 750 square feet.
Right.
Given the facts that were presented in this case.
Right. And then, yeah, okay.
I have no problem with that either.
Yeah, no, I think that's very fair. And
But let's ask Paul. Paul,
If that's what the board would like me to do, then I'll do it. But I would issue the permit 750. So you know, that's all I say, and I'll get an opinion from town council.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be I think that would be wise to get that on a parallel track from us doing a site visit and then looking through the presentation again since I came in, you know, late this afternoon.
I mean, if somebody came in and with an application to build, if they had if the FIR was suitable to build a 5,000 square foot barn in the back of their house at 35 feet, I would issue the permit by right.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah, and then somebody could
put an ADU in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
right. I mean, I'm not totally comfortable with what we're doing, but I definitely do not think it's within our purview to ask for legal counsel because I don't think it bears on our special permit.
Yeah,
so to
no,
ask him to do it is, I don't even know if we can ask him to do it, but
let's Mr. O'Reilly, we close public comment, but since you're the applicant, I'll give you the floor back for a minute or two.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, respond to a couple things. The other point brought up was the height. We're at 20 feet, 8 inches, and the max height is 24 feet. So we are well under that. Again, just going back to these 92 square feet under the bylaw, as one of the members brought up this evening, there's stipulations about rentals and other ways for this to be manipulated, but this is in fact following the spirit of the bylaw that town council has already approved, and that we're not here to debate tonight. And I want to thank the council for their time.
Thank you. So we do a site visit. Would we want to do that as a group, or Haley, can you get some times together potentially? And then I'll be asking the applicant or Mr. O'Reilly to stake the corners and make him, make him well visible. Even staking the corners with some wooden stakes, but making them fluorescent orange so that so that they're a bit better visible from the streets.
Theo, can I say one?
Yeah. Go ahead.
It might be helpful also to see where they would be if you took off the 92 square feet. So you put stakes in as well, so we can see where the difference would be.
Yeah. Good. I will do that. Mr. Gromer, very quickly. We close public comment, but
I understand. I was just wanted to ask, would the abutters have the opportunity to participate in the site visit?
that's totally up to the homeowners, because they might not want abutters on their property, just for all sorts of legal reasons.
We'll promise not to vandalize, but it does seem
but
like
that's
a public event and the public consideration. So the abutter,
it is also not going to be a public meeting, so there will not be. We might be asking if it's going to be a site visit as a board. We will be asking some questions. There won't be any discussion because it's not going to be a public open meeting. So we can ask some questions, but that's the extent of it. And given schedules, the last three site visits we wanted to schedule, we ended up going the board members went on their own, and never went as a group, just to go by a certain site. So, but let's try to get this as a group. I would assume, Ms. O'Reilly, that staking could happen pretty quickly.
You let me know what you need.
Yeah, just corners and as long as stakes are visible from the street, because I think that's going to be important. And then Haley, if you can send around some dates that we can maybe agree upon, and then we'll have that done before the next hearing.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? If none, I will entertain a motion to continue.
Yeah. Sorry, what the date and time is? What?
August.
So that would be August 10th for 7:10.
Okay, I so move that we continue this till August 10th at 7:10.
Can I hear a second?
Second, sorry.
Ms. Akers-Moore,
Aye.
Ms. Swain, Mr. Swain.
Aye.
And chair votes aye as well. Thank you. This was healthy discussion, and we'll be in touch. Haley will be in touch, or when you, Ms. O'Reilly, can let Haley know when the building is staked, and then we'll try to come up with a date that we can look at this.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's go and see whether Mr. Flynn, who has had to be a little bit patient here, is he available? Can we hear from Mr. Flynn for 358 Strawberry Hill Road?
I do see him here.
Oh, I think there is. I see him. Can we hear you? No, I don't think we can hear you.
Oh,
Well, I can't see that.
Yeah, unfortunately, without audio, it won't appear
Can you
right
just
on
call
screen.
in?
Hey, yeah.
Can you telephone in?
Sir, can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic, fantastic.
Yes, sir, I can hear you. I can hear you on my side. Apparently you can't hear me.
Right. So, but we can hear you now. So please go ahead.
What would you like to know, sir?
Just a quick reasoning for the request for the special permit, or it's a renewal for special.
Sir.
Yep. So let's sort of then go really quick to the building inspector, Paul Creedon. Have you heard of any complaints over the last period?
No, Theo, I have not. I have heard nothing. In fact, I didn't know that business existed until Mr. Flynn applied for his renewal.
No, that's a good thing. And I know we got a letter in, so let's ask for questions, comments from the board members.
Doesn't seem like anything has changed since the last permit was granted.
Right,
So I
right.
don't see any issue with it.
Nothing's changed, sir.
Okay, good. Let's open it up. No further question from the board. Let's open it up for public comment. Mary Beth Barker. Ms. Barker?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I didn't have my hand raised about Mr. Flynn's property. I also am on the agenda for renewal of a permit of tourist home. And I came into the meeting late and I don't know whether or not it was
Okay,
covered.
let's table this for a second.
Okay.
Let's deal with Mr. Flynn's application first.
Thank
So no public comment. Let's close that portion of the hearing. Any comments, questions, discussion from the board members? Personally, you need, Paul not knowing that there even was a business there shows that he's blending in very nicely with his surrounding and no further impact to the neighborhood. And I think also, I believe today maybe a letter also in support came in from one of the abutters. So I want to get that noted. What was the request for how long did you want to continue your permit for?
I believe it's 5 years, sir.
5 years, okay, good. Board members, I do not see a problem with that. If you guys see a problem with that, please tell me.
No
No problem.
Okay, if no problems, then please, may I have a motion?
I move that the application of Joseph Flynn for the renewal of a special permit under zoning bylaw sections 5.3.5, 7.1.2, and 11.6 for the garaging and parking of commercial motor vehicles at 358 Strawberry Hill Road be granted for a period of 5 years, subject to the conditions contained in the prior permits.
Second.
All those in favor, Mr. Swain,
Aye.
Ms. Elizabeth Akers Moore,
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Congratulations. 5 years.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. So want to go back to Ms. Barker, right? Who came late, and we were
We approved her permit.
We approved the permit, but just for 1 year. And that was just because you were not here to ask pretty much for a longer period. So we always, would like applicants to be here and ask for the permit extension. So we approved you for another year. And then hopefully next year, you can be present at the meeting, and then hopefully we'll give you a longer period.
Okay, I guess, I guess that will do.
Okay.
So the only thing I'm concerned about is then, does that mean I pay the fee again, another $100? So, yeah, okay,
Unfortunately, yeah.
I'm sorry.
So-
Yeah, I'm in Wisconsin visiting a grandchild and had trouble getting on the meeting with internet. So I
That's-
apologize for not being, present, but
That's too
yeah.
bad. Well,
Okay,
at least we approved you, right?
Okay,
So
well,
that's the good news.
okay, thank you very much.
So thank you. Take care.
Okay. I know.
Bye.
Yeah, we gotta do it again.
Next on the agenda, Keystone Custom Builders for a special permit for the construction of a new dwelling unit, which requires a waiver of the 15-foot height limit within the required 15-foot setback at 46 Emerson Road. Anybody here to speak in favor of the application?
Wait, what about the
Yeah.
other James
Yes.
Bing?
Yeah, what about
Oh,
James Bay?
sorry.
No
Sorry, I
worries.
was
I mean, we could go a lot faster if we just skipped things, so.
Yeah, well, we've been going back and forth, right, all along. So I thought we had.
We have.
Did misses. So my apologies. James Bing for special permit under zoning bylaw section 715.11.6 to construct an addition to the existing 1,758 square foot structure, but increases the gross floor area by more than 50% at 364 Thoreau Street.
Should say 367. Should say 367. Does it?
It's been a long day. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries. No worries. I'd like the my architect Marshall McLean to speak for me to begin with.
Marshall, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
I turned on the camera, but not the microphone. Good evening, I'm Marshall McLean. I'm the architect for the project, and I've been working with Jim to develop a primary bedroom and office addition to his home at 367 Thoreau Street. The existing 3-bedroom house was built in 1906 and has remained relatively unchanged since the original construction. My client has lived in the home for 35 years and seeks to add a proposed 709 square foot first floor bedroom and office space, which includes also a side mudroom entry and powder room. To meet the needs, his needs for the coming years, and also to provide space for family visits who live on the West Coast, bedrooms and living space. The project also includes a finished second floor bonus room space, which is accessed from the main house hallway above. The house is located in Zone A, and the lot is non-conforming for lot size, frontage, and lot width, and the existing house is non-conforming for front setback. The proposed addition is planned to extend off the rear of the house, and the new footprint will be located within the buildable lot area as defined by the side and rear setback lines. The gross floor area of the existing house is 1,758 square feet. Because of the non-conforming lot and house, we are seeking a special permit approval for a total existing and proposed gross floor area of 2,873 square feet, which would exceed the 150% by right cap because of the nonconformity by 236 square feet. So the overage beyond the 150 is just 236 square feet. The floor area ratio for the lot is 3,318, and our proposed total gross floor area is below that at 2,873. So we are below the FAR. Thank you for your time, and I believe Jim would like to make some comments.
Yes, and thank you for yes, for your time and all that you do. My wife and I moved in, and son moved in 1986, and the house has suited us fine. But as Marshall said, my son, 3 grandkids and daughter-in-law are on the West Coast, and they come to visit from time to time, and I'd like to have that be more frequently. But now at 11, 8, and 6, they don't really fit in the existing house. And in previous visits, all or some of them had to decamp to the Marriott or equivalent while visiting. So that's my primary interest. But in addition, other family and friends I would like to have come and visit. I have no interest in leaving Concord. My wife is at Sleepy Hollow, and I'm going to join her there at some point. But until then, this is where I'd like to stay. And the addition that Marshall has designed could conceivably at some point have a ramp access and so forth. And that is something that I do consider. So that's most of what I have to say about that, and I hope you'll approve it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions from my board members?
A question: does the new construction conform to side and rear setbacks?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's. There's been nothing. We've got a couple of others, a couple of comments here. So can we get the first floor plan of the addition? So that's first, that's in the center here, right?
Yes, so that's in the center, and the entrance, the new mudroom entrance is just is within the new construction. There's currently in the existing house there where the laundry room is shown in this plan, there's a bathroom. So that's part of the existing house there, but then the mudroom entry is in the new construction, and then you have the bedroom in the rear with the bath, and then a small office off of the hallway.
Yeah, and the ramp that Mr. Bing talked about would be somewhere
So
in
it
the
could
vicinity
conceivably come up the north side, which is where the driveway is on that left-hand side as you see the sheet. So that's a new deck uncovered, but there's a set of steps facing Little Magnolia Drive. But that could be a ramp as well.
Okay, yeah.
Wheelchair access to the main house.
Okay, so this would be, you know, a first floor living.
That's right. You could provide accessible.
Yeah. Well, notice that you're in a dead-end street. There's no neighbors on one side, I think, at least on one side. So
that's right.
Let me open it up for comments and questions from the neighbors, the public. Anybody with a hand up? Nobody, then I'll close that part of the hearing. I want to note that there were two letters that came in support of this application. That's a letter from Haynes and a letter from Brown. As I said, both in support. So I want to note that. Members of the board, I think this is a very well thought through application and design, as Tom just alluded to. The entire addition is within the setbacks. So I would like, if you don't have any further discussions, then I would like to entertain a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion. Okay. I paused long enough, but Tom wasn't going to do it. All right, so I move that we grant the special permit to James Bing under zoning bylaw section 7.1.5 and 11.6 to construct a 1,115 square foot addition to the existing 1,758 square foot structure, which increases the gross floor area by more than 50% at 367 Thoreau Street, incorporating our standard conditions under 11.6 that this does not, it does not increase the conformity, the non-conformity, and also does not derogate from the intent of the bylaw, no substantial effects on the neighborhood character, etc.
Second, I couldn't have done as well.
It's the etc. You just got to say etc, Tom.
Oh, okay, okay.
All those in favor, Ms. Akers Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Swain,
Yes,
and chair votes yes as well. Congratulations.
thank you.
Now then,
Well, thank you very much for your time and for all you do.
no problem. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Now then, Keystone Custom Builders for a special permit, a new construction, which requires a waiver of the 15-foot height limit within the required 15-foot setback at 46 Emerson Road. Who is here to speak in favor of that application?
Mr. Chairman, Mike Stady, owner of Keystone Custom Builders. We've purchased the property and hoping to construct a new dwelling on the existing foundation. Unfortunately, the existing foundation is 2.5 feet into the side setback. So that's the reason we're seeking relief for section 6.2.7. I believe the board has the plans, including the site plan and height calculations. Other than that, the lot meets all zoning requirements as far as frontage, lot size. The other setbacks all are well in compliance. But because we want to build under your bylaws over 15 feet on the left side where we do encroach into that side setback, we've been instructed that we need relief from that section of the bylaw. So I always find it better to just talk less and let your board ask questions. So I'm going to stop there and address questions that neighbors or your board may have.
Okay, thank you. We always love brevity. Mr. Swain, Ms. Akers Moore, any questions?
Just, I think the record should note that I'm mindful that the issue that he's raised could be avoided if a new foundation were to be built.
Right.
I happen to agree that shouldn't be necessary here. So I'm not pressing for that point, but I just wanted to make sure the record reflected that we saw that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nothing for the moment.
Nothing for the moment. If no further questions from the board, opening it up for public comment. Mr. Crucell.
Yes, good evening. People don't usually get that name correct, so thank you. Actually, to your board member, to Tom's comment about existing foundation versus new foundation, you know, I am curious. Under the application, Mike, you talk about if you didn't get the variance, you could build a substantially larger house, and I think it echoes some of the questions from one of the previous applications. So I'm just sort of curious. The new construction.
Alexa, turn up the volume.
New versus existing.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you want me to address that, I can.
Sure, please do.
So under the Concord bylaws, if we tore down the existing house and foundation, we could actually build up to 9,983 square feet based on the size of our lot. We have a very large lot in a 10,000 square foot zone. That is totally inappropriate for this neighborhood, for this lot, which is one main reason we're trying to salvage the existing foundation to build a house of appropriate size and scale. And we save money by doing that. As soon as we have to rip out the foundation and everything else, economics dictate us to have to go bigger. So we could tear everything down, move it 2 feet and build a much, much bigger house. We don't want to do that. We want to do something appropriate to the scale of this neighborhood.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And what's the house size of the house you're proposing? Remind us of that.
The house itself will be 2,980 square feet on the first and second floor, another 600 square feet in the basement finished. And the house already has an approved ADU, which is 480 square feet. So our total gross floor area, including garage, would be 4,039 square feet.
Would include an ADU. So, good. Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Mr. Crucell, could I just get your address for the record, please?
Yeah, it's 60 Emerson. It's actually the setback is next to our property.
Okay, thank you.
And I had earlier sent some photos to the board showing the properties, just in addition to what you had.
Thank you. Public, Paul DeCesare.
Thank you very much. This is Paul DeCesare. I'm the neighbor across the street at 43 Emerson Road. And I had a question about the height of the building that's being proposed. It is on top of the existing foundation. The property sits on a knoll, so it is probably already 20 feet from the top of the foundation to the road, the street level. And so what I think is being proposed here is another on top of that. So I can share a picture with you if it would help.
Sure. Haley, can you?
Yep, here it comes now.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm the neighbor across the street. That's my view, my front windows.
Well, we haven't. Hang on. We're not seeing anything yet. Up there it is. Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. Now we have it. Now we have it. Good. Go ahead.
So I think the car in there adds a little perspective that the house already sits considerably above the road. And I think if I read the proposal correctly, it's another 31 feet, or they're proposing a 31-foot tall house. To me, it seems like it's going to add a fair amount of shade and additional coverage to, and I'm just intrigued to know what the board's position is on something like that.
Okay, thank you. The board position is, I think, speaking for the board, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that it's the existing house or the new house that's being built is totally within the legal limits that have been set out in the zoning bylaw. It is the little addition to the side that's the 2 feet intrusion into that side setback that makes this applicant come here. And that's what we're sort of deciding upon.
Okay, that's helpful. I wasn't sure if there was any impact to across the street as well.
No. So closing the public hearing section of this hearing. Any comments, discussion from the board members? I think indeed I hear I hear the comment from the last person that public member of the public that spoke, that it's going to be a bit of an imposing building, but it is within all the limits set within the zoning bylaw. And as the applicant said, yeah, we can move it over an additional 2 feet, but then we can also build a building that's almost twice the size of what we are proposing now. So that's the zoning bylaw. So while it might be a bit imposing, it is totally by the book. And I like the fact that they need an existing foundation gets reused and not just torn up, discarded, and then something larger being built. But any of the board members would like to add or comment?
No, I'm comfortable with it.
Me too.
Okay, I'm looking at you, Thomas.
On the application of Keystone Custom Builders for a special permit under zoning bylaw section 6.2.7 and 11.6 for the construction of a new dwelling which requires a waiver to the 15-foot height limit within the required 15-foot setback at 46 Emerson Road to allow the increased height to 31 feet. That application be approved, subject to the normal conditions.
Second.
All those in favor, Mr. Swain,
Yes.
Ms. Akers Moore,
Aye.
chair votes aye as well. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
So interesting one on the next one, Howard J. Soberg for a special permit to site plan review at 166 Commonwealth Avenue. The applicant has requested that the public hearing be opened on July 13 and immediately continued without discussion to August 10th. Now, we typically, and I might be talking semantics here, we typically don't open a hearing, we just continue it, right? And there is no, by opening it, there is, I can't see that a clock is ticking here. That the clock starts ticking. So I'm not sure whether we just want to continuing it without opening or opening and then continuing. I mean, it might be semantics.
Yeah, I have no idea. Tom, you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think as long as we're not running a calendar problem of the application date and the decision date, I don't think we need to open. We just continue to August, whatever.
Excellent. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
Are we at 7:15 on that day, Haley?
Let me just double check. Yes.
Sure, I move that we continue the application of Howard J. Soberg Jr. for a special permit at 166 Commonwealth Ave to August 10th meeting at 7:15.
Thomas?
Yes. Second.
All those in favor, Ms. Akers Moore,
I'm in favor, yes.
Mr. Swain,
Yes.
and chair is in favor as well. So thank you. Continued. 740 Concord Center for the Visual Arts for a special permit with site plan review to demolish the existing Coleman Gallery and construct an addition to an existing non-conforming structure and relief from parking at 37 Lexington Road. We saved the best for last. So who is here to speak for the applicant?
I am John Battle. I'm the architect for the project. We have with us tonight Kate James, who is the executive director of the Art Association, and Bob Drew from my office, as well as several of our consultants and other team members if questions are needed. Our process has been, we initially began by going through the HTC. So the essence of the project was to remove that one existing gallery and to replace it with a more two classroom addition piece, which has a more contemporary feeling to sort of juxtapose new work versus old work of the antique building. We presented to the HDC. We were enthusiastically received and granted approval. We then went through the process of going to the planning board to review issues of all the issues that go on with the site plan review, parking relief, water management, all the other components. We've received support from abutters. We haven't really had any opposition from anybody along the way. And I'd be happy to walk you through the details of the project more in depth to the extent that you would like that, or I'd be happy to listen to you and see if you have reactions after having had several town boards already review the project in depth.
Yeah, thank you. We'll ask questions. We got the report from the town planner.
But
and
what
I
was
think
the vote? I have, the planning board voted blank to blank. Is that, do I have a,
They granted us approval on Tuesday night.
Okay, so that,
so something higher than something else? Was it 5-0? Or what? I
It
don't-
was unanimous.
Yes, great. Okay.
good. And yeah, as usual, that was a very thorough report from the town planner.
Yes, it was. It took us several
Uh,
months to go through the whole process.
Yeah. Um,
I guess I
I-
have, sorry, do you
go
want
ahead.
to?
No, you go
I
ahead.
have some questions about, which I don't feel super strongly about, but these formal written agreements, I mean, are we between the, the church and, I guess, let me ask this, if the applicant feel that anything in this recommendation is overly burdensome to them, or are they happy with these conditions from the planning board?
We are comfortable with the planning board conditions. There are some stipulations about over the long term, kind of a sort of an after the fact point of checking to see if parking has become an issue. We think that's very, very unlikely. The loads that we're adding to the general needs are quite low. So we're not really concerned about those constraints.
Okay, and all of the formal agreements and coordinating with Concord Academy and the library, you're comfortable with all of those?
That's a little bit cumbersome, but we have letters from the adjacent churches for utilization of their parking facilities under these high load circumstances.
I also felt it was a little burdensome to ask you to coordinate with a bunch of other institutions in town over just my 2 cents. It was a little bit of an overreach in terms of asking people across town whether they're having events, but if you are okay with it, then so be it.
In terms of dealing with the planning board, it was a little bit hard to try and push back. We felt that was a big ask, but we also don't think it's going to be a problem in the long run. But it's almost like an administrative hurdle that we were going through, but we're totally fine doing it.
Yeah, okay. And I feel the same way. And maybe my question is just, to the board members, do we really feel like all of that? I feel like it's overly burdensome and unnecessary. I will just throw that out there.
Yeah, I thought so. Written agreements, getting written agreements in place, it's never an easy undertaking for an institution like this. And I think it behooves the applicant to make sure that if they have a large event to ask around, and I would assume they're smart enough to, when they have a larger event, to make sure that the church across the street doesn't have an event that same day scheduled, right? It's just
Yes.
you're gonna do.
Coordinate, sorry, Theo, but with the town, Concord Academy and the library, when you're not even right there, that's on page 8.
Yeah.
If I had my way, I would strike that as a condition. And I would strike.
If you care to strike that as I don't want to get back into the one hand of town government approving and the other hand saying no. I don't know who's got final jurisdiction and judgment power, but we would accept if it ultimately that did strike us as a very large ask.
I think it's
and
unrealistic,
if that could be
honestly.
Okay, that's fine. We felt we had no choice but to agree, but if you'd like to strike that, that would be great.
Mr. Swaim, since you and I have been disagreeing tonight, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it may be a little burdensome, but if they've accepted it, I don't think we ought, at this point, I don't think I would move to take something out of that report, because everybody at the planning board level and at the applicant level clearly have worked very hard to achieve some accommodation, because I don't know how many meetings they had, but more than one. So I personally would say, let's just stay with what the planning board recommended and that we are comfortable with it, and the applicant has said they can live with it.
Mr. Battle, I'd have to say I would let you take Tom on that one. I'm not sure I can convince him otherwise.
We would rather move forward.
I figured.
Why
I'll just put it on record.
We like moving forward. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for raising this. question.
Yeah.
Putting it on record for future
appreciate
consideration
it.
for other applications. It's a
Thank you.
little overburdensome. But anyway, that's
Just
all.
just keep in mind that if we disagree with the planning board, just remember that if we disagree with some portions of the planning board report, we have to write in our decision why we disagree.
Mm-hmm. And I think that well, I mean, we could do that. If you're not inclined to do it anyway, Tom, that's fine. I think what's
I'm
going
not.
on in town, yeah, that's fine. Okay. I have no other comments. I thought the report was well written and comprehensive. And I think it's a very nice looking addition.
Yeah,
Thank you.
don't disagree. I had a comment on, or question actually, on your handicap parking space. And I actually really liked the parking analysis that you did, that you counted the abundance of spaces that are available. I like the fact that you, with that, in that count, you took into account the available handicap parking spaces, accessible spaces that are available nearby. So that I like, but I just want to make sure that the that one excuse me, handicap accessible space that's out on the side here on the left hand side that meets MAAB standards. Can you tell me what the width is there of that space?
Let's see. Bob, can you help me out and give me some dimensions on that?
Yep. You ready?
There's AutoCAD. Yep.
DataCAD.
Oh.
We're older. 14 foot, you round up 14.6.
Yeah, so it needs to be 16, right?
Let me confirm that just to make sure. Sorry, it's from the building. I was, pardon me. So it's from the building. Oops.
Yeah. So we need 8 feet for the space and 8 feet for the aisle. And it needs marked, and it needs to be under 2%, right? And I'm asking all of this because, you know, we're approving a parking situation here, and I don't want to necessarily approve something that violates the MAAB.
Okay.
So that is my concern here.
So it's 15.8 from here to here at the front part. As you see, the property line goes back. We're going to be at probably 16.
And that's 18 feet deep, right? Sort of
Oh,
like
yeah,
what's that side? Well, that side that you're on.
I'm gonna go. Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. From
No. That what the space would be the area that's 16 feet wide.
Okay, hold on.
So from there, yeah. No. Go to the front of the building from there where you were to the front. That,
Sorry,
yeah,
from here.
Yeah.
We're at 17.3.
17.3, close enough. Well, so as you know, needs to be 8 and 8, and then 18 feet in depth, right? And then it needs to be striped and less than 2% slope in any given direction.
This has served as the handicapped space for us.
No, I hear
this
you.
point.
I hear you, but it doesn't necessarily meet MAAB regulation and ADA regulations. So I think it's very close, and although there is no leeway in MAAB, I would like to take it anyways in this case, but I would like to have it striped. And you know, with an aisle striped. I would like to make it at least very much visible that there is a handicap parking space out on site.
That's fine.
And it's there. Otherwise, I mean, it's a little bit of a hidden space otherwise. Just a single sign that's not very visible. So I want to make sure that anybody who needs this accommodation can use it, and it's clearly out there for them to use.
We would also
We
have
would agree to that.
We also have a sign. See where I'm pointing right here? We're moving.
Yeah.
See, the sign was back in here. We're moving it towards the front part of this construction project, so it's more visible from the street. If that helps.
Yeah.
So with that and the stripe, I think that's pretty.
The striping
screams that.
Yeah. I mean, that was totally not in this space that met the accessible criteria. So with that, thank you for that. I'd like to open it to members of the public to comment. Seeing none, I'll close that section of the hearing. And I think the vibe I'm getting from the board is that it's a project that could be approved, given the conditions that town planner outlined and the reasoning that she used for that. So if you guys want to discuss any further, let me know.
No, I'm okay with it.
Yes, just again, for the record, I don't think that it should be prohibitive for us to go against the planning board. We don't have to do it in this case, but and we've done that before. We have.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you, but I think in
it
this
was
case,
part of other negotiations. I get that we
and the applicant went along with it, and I don't think it's. Yeah, it's a burden, but it's not, it's necessarily a fight we want to start fighting.
No, I agree. I'm just, just on record.
Yeah.
I don't mind opposing the planning board on things.
No,
Just
good.
to bug Tom.
Well, I agree with my fellow board member. I can oppose them when it's appropriate.
Okay, good. All right, good. We'll agree to
I too
agree
have
on
no-
that. And Mr. Battle, I'll represent you next time in front of the planning board, right? Tell them it's burdensome. All right.
Okay.
I would ask Elizabeth to make the motion. I don't happen to have the planning board report in front of me, and on the motion that you might make, Elizabeth, should because of the location of this prominent site, should we reference the plans in the ultimate decision that they become part of the decision?
Yes, and are the plans all referenced in the, let's see, just looking to see if they're referenced in this letter. All right, I don't see it, so I will put that in. Okay, great. So I move that we grant a special permit to the Concord Center for the Visual Arts for the special permit with site plan review under zoning bylaws section 7.1.3, 7.7.2.12, 11.6, and 11.8 to demolish the existing Coleman Gallery and construct a 2,593 square foot addition to an existing 7,349 square foot non-conforming structure and relief from parking at 37 Lexington Road, parcel number 0015. Adding in the conditions laid out in the July 12th, 2023 letter from the town planner, and referencing all of the plans that were used in the planning board decision making. I don't have all the plans in front of me either, so.
It's a very long list.
Is that good enough? Is that good enough? And you get the gist. And also, Theo, you want to add in that making sure that or just the condition that handicap parking space is striped.
Striped and confirmed, and I think that needs to be for building permit anyway, that its grading meets the MAAB criteria. But yeah, I'd like to see the space striped and a symbol on the pavement.
Great, so adding that as a condition. And that is my motion.
And I second that motion.
All All in favor, Ms. Akers Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Swain,
Yes.
chair votes yes as well. Congratulations.
It's a great
been
looking
waiting-
addition.
Yeah, and we've been
Thank you.
waiting a long time for you guys to finally show up here at the.
We have
this is
tried to
good.
get before you many times before.
I mean,
We
we
have been
almost changed our
thwarted.
policy on how many times you could ask for a continuance based on this.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night now.
Okay, last item on the agenda is the administrative business, the minutes of May 11th. I've read them and I did not have any comments or edits.
I do not as either.
I do not.
Well done, Haley. So may I have a motion to approve these minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes of May 11th.
Second.
All those in favor, Ms. Akers Moore,
Aye.
Mrs. Swain,
Yes.
chair votes yes as well.
Yay.
That's it. Yay.
Could I-
Not so bad. You did a good job of keeping that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2 hours, but
It's 2 hours.
Could I-
Yeah, sorry
could I
about
ask
that. That
a-
was a rough beginning here. I was
Listen.
confused, but that was a fun meeting anyways. It was,
Let me ask a
it would have been
question.
shorter if people hadn't argued.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me ask one question, because this comes up from time to time. One of the applicants, who I think, I don't remember which one, but we approved for Keystone Builders or something. And that was the applicant. Has there ever been a discussion, Elizabeth or Theo, that you remember, when an entity comes forward that's not the owner, but is really representing the owner? We
Yeah.
grant permits to the applicant. Should we be naming the owners as well? Because I'm just thinking of the people running title.
We have talked about this. And it didn't concern us very much in the end of the day, and I can't remember why. Hey, Paul, do you
okay.
remember why? Was it just practically speaking, if someone is, what was our reasoning on this?
That probably predated me.
Oh.
Elizabeth, but
Oh,
It did come up recently with the 309 Garfield decision. One of the neighbors was questioning how somebody that's not listed on the deed applied and received a special permit, but
Haley, did you have an answer?
I just wanted to say, I might have missed something here, but the application specifically says that Keystone is purchasing the property.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
And-
they
There
and-
are.
have been issues of this because I remember people applying and John Brady had some thought on this. Oh, gosh, I'm too
Yeah,
old.
Well,
but-
do I have the board's permission? I know a terrific conveyancer. Do I have your permission to inquire?
Yeah.
What their view
Yes.
on that might be?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And-
let me just check.
and-
We have been referencing just the owners on
Okay.
all of the agenda items.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the special permit, doesn't that run sort of with the property, not with the owner?
Yes.
Well, yeah, it does, generally.
Right?
Correct.
So if
yeah, I'm thinking-
But
whomever
like
the
if
owner
I
is,
went and applied for a special permit on Tom's property, for example, that's what you're saying, Tom, without your
Right.
knowledge or consent, and it would be a little weird of me to do that. And then I couldn't
But-
really get on your property to do anything, but I guess it's possible.
yeah, but
When I
but
was
so-
when I was representing people, I often they'd say, Tom, you make the application. So I read C. Thomas Swain on behalf of somebody. And
Yeah.
I always wanted to make sure that when the board granted the permits, if they granted them, that they would run to the owner and not to me, even though I was the attorney representing them.
Yeah,
right,
makes a
and-
lot
and-
of sense.
And I've often done it where you get a letter from the owner saying,
Yes.
this person is allowed to apply for any and all permits on my behalf. Sort of. So.
I
Well,
think,
I agree with that, but that's a little different. And I agree with that, and that is most appropriate. But that isn't, that letter won't show up in a title exam because that letter doesn't go to
Mm.
record in the registry. That only says that person has authority to come before us and make the argument, or whatever. So.
Sure,
so
but then the special permit get issued and that goes with the land, not with the owner.
true, but again, it makes it harder sometimes to, let me just check it out.
Yeah. Gosh, every meeting here, we come up with something.
With another memo topic. I love
Yeah,
it.
some homework for Tom.
Tom, you're gonna end up with a whole book.
Well, no, I'm just gonna be, you guys are gonna say, God, don't let that guy come tonight.
No, that's what you're gonna say to me, but I think it's the academic stuff is interesting, I think.
Yeah.
I think Keystone owned the house by now, because he told me by the time the meeting comes around, he'd have closed on it. So that's probably not
On that one. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, we got to get Paul some, we got to keep him interested in what we're doing, right?
God, Paul. I hope you like
So-
court. I mean, geez.
It's a learning curve every meeting, believe me.
Oh, yeah.
Theo, you did do a good job tonight. There was some.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
he
did.
did.
I was getting agitated. Sorry for that. And I wasn't not feeling well today. So I was a little bit confused in the beginning. So.
Well, you did just fine.
Thank you. But it's actually, I actually enjoyed it because, I could sort of sit back and have you guys fight. That was good. No, I mean,
I would have fought with him even if I'd been chair.
Yeah, but I think the fact that I'm now chairing gives you a little bit more freedom to me, that feels like a bit more freedom to go after the substance of because you don't have to focus on the administrative
Yeah, watch
stuff.
out, Tom. No, it's true. I mean, it's true. You're not focusing so much on controlling the meeting, which is kind of nice.
Right.
You deal with that. So, anyway, well, thank you, everyone.
Okay.
I'll see you.
All right.
Yeah.
all
Have
in
a great
August.
summer. See you all in August.